name's Sherlock Holmes, and the address is 221B Baker Street. Afternoon.
Hi. Well, hello people. In advance, I would say thank you for the opportunity. Let me introduce myself. My name is Yulia Meli Ardiansyah. Okay, at the beginning, there was a snippet about a film. Anyone know what film it is? Yep, that's right. It's a Sherlock Holmes film. The Sherlock Holmes film is adapted from his novel of the same name. So here I will tell you about one of my favorite books. Of course, it is Sherlock Holmes. This book tells the story of a detective named Sherlock Holmes and his partner, Dr. John Watson, where they adventure and solve cases together. And the unique thing is that Sherlock only accepts cases that are strange and difficult for other people to solve. Okay, here I want to tell you a story of Sherlock book them a study in Scarlet. So in a verse, Dr. John Watson, a former army doctor injured during the conflict in Afghanistan. He is searching to a cheaper apartment to live. Besides, Sherlock Holmes also looking for a partner in his apartment. And then they decide to become roommates. They sharing the residence located at 221B Baker Street, which is owned by their landlady, Mrs. Hudson. So, currently in London, a series of peculiar deaths initially believed by Inspector Lestrade to be unrelated suicides has caught their attention. The victims seem to have taken poison pills, leading to suspicions of a serial suicide phenomenon. And Sherlock realized the late crime scene where a woman dressed in pink died. Based in his deduction, he concludes that she was engaged in serial adultery and had an unhappy marriage. Unlike the previous victims, she left an unfinished note in the floor, clawing the word Rachel, disregarding the forensic expert Anderson's suggestion that it means revenge in German. But Sherlock asserts that it refers to Rachel, implying that the victim perished before completing the message. Sherlock noticed traces of mud on the woman's leg, indicating that she came from out of town. Although the police failed to locate a suitcase on the premises, Sherlock persists in searching and eventually discovers it in a nearby trash container. When returning to 221B Baker Street, Sherlock asks John to send a text message to the phone of the fourth victim. However, since the phone is neither on the victim's body nor in her suitcase, Sherlock deduces that the killer must have taken the woman's phone. Furthermore, he deduces that the victims were abducted from crowded streets without anyone noticing. Using John's mobile phone, Sherlock sends a text message to the victim's phone, making it appear as though it came from the victim herself. Through his ruse, Sherlock bait the murderer to a specific street. While observing a local restaurant, Sherlock spots a taxi and gives chase, relying on his extensive knowledge of London streets and alleys to outrun the vehicle on foot. Yet, upon catching up to the taxi with John's assistance, they discover that the passenger is a recently arrived American, providing him with a solid alibi. This revelation leads Sherlock to the realization that the murderer is a taxi driver, explaining why no one noticed the victim's disappearances since they simply entered the taxi.
Trust, even if you don't know them. Who passes unnoticed wherever they go? Who hunts in the middle of it?
Growing suspicious that Sherlock has withheld evidence, Scotland Yard conduct a drug raid on his apartment in an attempt to search it. Sherlock intuits that Rachel was the victim's email password and that she had purposely planted her mobile phone on the killer to enable tracking through GPS, accessible via her email account.
Rachel is not a name.
Then what is it?
John, on the luggage there's a label, email address.
Jenny.pink@mephone.org.uk.
I've been too slow. She didn't have a laptop, which means she did her business on her phone. So it's a smartphone, it's email enabled. So there was a website for her account. The username is her email address, and all together now the password is...
Rachel. So we can read her emails, so what?
Anderson, don't talk out loud. You lower the IQ of the whole street. We can do much more than just read her emails. It's a smartphone, it's got GPS.
While John traces the signal, discovering it emanating from 221B Baker Street. Mrs. Hudson informs Sherlock of a waiting taxi driver downstairs. Sherlock departs the apartment and enters the waiting taxi. And then the taxi driver confesses to his crimes, but asserts that he does not commit the actual killings. Instead, he claims to engage his victims in conversations, leading them to take their own lives.
Abby, it's like you're invisible. Just the back of an head. Proper advantage for a serial killer.
Is this a confession?
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you what else. If you call the coppers now, I won't run.
He presents Sherlock with a challenge, insisting that he must solve a puzzle. They arrive at a school building and the taxi driver reveals a gun and two bottles, one containing a harmless pill and the other a lethal one. Sherlock must choose one pill while the taxi driver promises to ingest the remaining one. Realizing that the taxi driver is dying, Sherlock exposes the gun as a mere cigarette lighter, seeing through the ruse. The taxi driver discloses that he is not wealthy and commits these acts to leave money behind for his children. He also discloses the existence of a sponsor and secret admirer of Sherlock, who pays him for each murder he carries out. Leaving the scene, the taxi driver challenges Sherlock once more to select a pill and solve the puzzle. Meanwhile, John traces the GPS signal from the victim's phone, following Sherlock's trail, observing Sherlock through an abandoned building's window. John looking at Sherlock that forced to consume one of the pill, and John decided to shooting the taxi driver to help Sherlock.
A bottle and a bad bottle. You take the pill from the good bottle, you live. Take the pill from the bad bottle, you die.
Both bottles are, of course, identical.
In every way.
And you know which is which?
Of course I know.
But I don't.
Wouldn't be a game if you knew. You're the one who chooses.
Why should I? I've got nothing to go on. What's in it for me?
I haven't told you the best bit yet. Whatever bottle you choose, I take the pill from the other one. And then together, we take our medicine. I bet you get bored, don't you? I know you do. A man like you, so clever. You're not bored now, are you? Nico.
But before the taxi driver dies, Sherlock interrogates the dying man, first inquiring about his success in the pill game and then seeking information regarding the fan mentioned by the taxi driver. Ultimately, the taxi driver reveals the name Moriarty. Outside, the police has closed the area of crime scene and taking care of the body of the taxi driver, who the murderer of the serial killer that happened in London. And this is the end of the story of a study in Scarlet. So Sherlock finds the murderer who do the serial killer in London that actually a taxi driver. Yep, that's it. The story of this chapter of the adventure of Sherlock Holmes. I personally like this book because the character of Sherlock are really strong, interesting, and genius, and also the cases is really make me so curious about it. I think it's enough from me. Thank you for listening to my story. See you and bye bye.
Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson.